And we're live. Okay, so who am I talking to today?
My name is Nixame Fall, but my real name is Anna. I go by Nix by short just because most people don't know that it's like Nixame rather than like I don't know. I've never heard anybody else try and pronounce it other than Nix.
I never even attempted it myself. I've always just said Nix because I didn't know how that last half was supposed to go. So that's fair. That's fair. And how long you been playing this game for?
Oh geez. I want to say maybe 3 years, maybe inching on it.
Don't sound too sure about that one.
Maybe like between two, maybe three. It
Okay.
was gosh, it's been a hot minute. Time flies.
What so then was Shadowbringers the newest expansion when you joined?
No, Endwalker was.
Endwalker. Okay.
Endwalker had came out and they just brought back like the free trial again because free trial was closed.
Hmm.
And then they brought it back. And then my husband was like, let's go play Final Fantasy. And then we played until like Ifrit, and then he quit, and then I just kept going.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. Now, so if it was Endwalker, it probably is somewhere between the 2 to 2.5 year mark at that point. Then I think that's I don't know. My memory sucks. I think that's how long Endwalker's been out at this point.
Mine sucks just as much.
Yeah. So what do you like to do in the game mostly?
For the longest time, I liked to run every single dungeon I could possibly get my hands on, just because I enjoyed like just running straight through them.
Mm,
I weirdly enough, like when I first like came to the game, I had done extensive research about what kind of class I wanted to play. And that kind of just like set the whole like spectrum. I was like, okay, I need to start here for this one, and then I need to go here to get this one. Because I've played so many like MMORPGs where like you're different races, and
yeah.
I'm so used to like the spectrum where certain races give you certain benefits over certain classes. So I was trying to pinpoint the correct one, and then they didn't have that, and I was like,
Right.
oh, okay.
Right. So they didn't have that by the time that you joined. Now, way back in A Realm Reborn when that was brand new, they actually did have that. Um, the different races here do have different stat bonuses, but they're like a point or two, and by the end of the game, it doesn't matter anymore. But um, we used to have certain races be better at different like jobs by end game when the cap was level 50. Uh, we
Hmm.
had we had different stats available too. Like we had an accuracy stat that you had to manage to make sure you could actually hit the enemies.
Oh,
So there were different races that were kind of better at different classes as a result. Also, we had to choose our stat points upon level up. So that was a thing that went away over the years. So you used to
dang,
be
I
able to
would have
find
loved that.
well, well, I kind of agree with the way that it is now, honestly, because it got to the point where like if you messed up your like increases at level up, and you did like binding coils of Bahamut or something, your skills would just miss the enemy. Like you just wouldn't hit.
Oh,
So you'd be like on the second part of your 3 hit combo, and your second part would just miss and whiff, and that felt bad. So
oh, gee.
so yeah, I don't miss that, but that did used to exist. That was a thing. So with the amount of research you did into classes and stuff, what is the class that you like to play in here?
Most definitely Scholar. It's a very, very big one. I've always played healer in every single game I've played. Um, I'm just that weird little masochist who likes to play healer. So I was exploring which one was the best option, and I was looking at all the different skills like reading every single one of them, which one had the most benefit, which one
Mm.
seemed easier to manage. And I was like, I want this one. I looked at White Mage and I was like, this screams basic to me. I don't want that. And then I looked at Scholar and then I looked at Astro and I was like, Astro, maybe. And then I looked at Sage, and Sage was interesting. And then I was like, well, I can't even touch that one until like level 60, I think it was.
70, yeah, actually.
You get to like, wasn't it like you get to like Heaven's, no, was it
No, no.
Stormblood?
Heaven's Ward would have been for Astrologian. That last Astro is locked behind Heaven's
Oh,
Ward.
that's what I'm
Sage
confusing.
Sage is just locked behind being level 70 because that class starts at level 70.
Oh yeah, that's right. Because I
Mm.
remember like having a whole hissy fit over the fact that like you unlock Astro and then you got to start it at like level 1. It doesn't automatically pop it at like a higher
Mm.
level, and I was pissy.
Mm.
I didn't touch it.
Yeah, Astro starts at level 30. So it's not quite level 1, but it is pretty low comparatively to like the newer classes cuz we get stuff like, Samurai starts at level 50, Red Mage starts at level 50, Gunbreaker starts at what, like 60, I think. So, yeah,
I think that was also 30.
which is?
Gunbreaker? Because didn't you unlock like Gunbreaker with Astro in the same
No,
area?
no, no. That was Machinist. Machinist is also level
Jesus.
30. Yeah.
Tell I don't know my other classes.
That's
I
okay.
go with the one that I'm like, I'm a one trick pony. Good
Yeah.
luck getting me to do anything else.
So the easiest way to remember is that all the classes that launched with Heaven's Ward are the ones that start you at 30. And then everything else, they start you at a higher level, like all the ones that came after. Samurai, Red Mage, those are 50. Gunbreaker is, I think it's 60. I can't swear to it. Yeah, it's 60. Um, and
At
then
least
like
that gives me high hopes for the new expansion. I don't know, start from base one,
speaking of, yeah,
hopefully.
are you interested in the new classes coming with Dawn Trail?
I saw the Pictomancer and
Hmm.
I was a little bit intrigued by it, but I didn't go too deep into it. I'm kind of waiting to surprise myself for
Gotcha.
the whole new expansion. I've gone on like a kind of like hiatus to
Hmm.
like keep my way from the new content so then that way when I dive into like the whole story, I
Right.
can get it purely vanilla rather than coming in with a little bit of teaser here and there.
Right. Yeah. And I get that. That's a valid way to do things. So then I'm assuming you haven't actually run the benchmark then that they released.
No, my
Okay.
last main quest anyway is like I think shit. Sit back down.
You can't run
Okay.
away from this.
Um I I was trying to click on the quest and then
Yeah.
I ran away. But they came out with the um dang it. It was the Manderville weapons. They came
Yeah.
out with the second boost and I didn't do any of like the storyline that came out around then.
Okay.
So I kind of just like left off after they did oh gosh, what is the last if I can remember my hotkeys. This will be fun. It's you. That's the hotkey.
There's a
It's
few of
been
them.
a minute since I've been on. Like Lunar Subterrane was like the last dungeon I did,
Okay.
and then I just like logged off.
That's not too far behind, honestly. You're not. It doesn't take that much work to get caught up at this point, so you're in a pretty good spot. Um, so with with that, then I won't go into spoiler territory for Dawn Trail stuff that I've seen. I will just say that the benchmark lets you look at the new graphics, like the lighting updates and stuff like that. That looks very nice. Um,
Ooh.
as someone that uses reshade, um, I I also tested it out with that, and it's a bit more of an impact on my performance when I have that running at the same time. Now I'm probably gonna have to upgrade my video card to not dip below 60 at some points, but
Mm.
it by itself it looks very good now.
I
Um,
ought to look into it then, because I considered
hmm,
doing the shaders at one point, and I just could not get it to work. I have
uh,
the capacity to run it. I
hmm.
just I have never done it because my computer is like a little Frankenpooter. Um,
Yeah, speaking of, you had that computer issue a while back where like it just basically shit out on you. Is it going okay now? Is it running all right?
it's hit or miss. It's definitely hit or miss. I
Okay.
think I've changed out so many parts on this computer now
Uh,
that sometimes she has a temper tantrum, sometimes she doesn't. And she likes to make up her mind what day she wants to work. She apparently did not appreciate that I was dual boxing one
mm.
game on one screen and watching Bridgerton on the second screen. So it guess did not appreciate that. I got a blue screen shortly after, and I was
Oh,
like, okay,
okay.
we'll settle down.
All right. So still up in the air then. I see. That's
Yeah,
it's not a great sign. Uh,
she's being a brat. Got a
that's
whole new
okay.
processor. She's got a whole new things, whole new Windows. The only thing I haven't changed out is the motherboard, and Lord help me, I'm not doing that.
Okay. Yeah, the motherboard, once you've got all the other parts already in place, the motherboard becomes kind of a bitch to replace because you have to disconnect everything.
Oh my
Um,
gosh, especially with like my 1090 in there.
mhm.
Um, it is horrible to put in there. Like as soon as you get it in there, it's in there. You don't move
Right.
it. You don't touch it.
I always hate that. I always hate trying to replace my video card because they do sit so tight in that slot that every time you pull it out, you are worrying that you're gonna break it. Like you're gonna break something. Like this shouldn't take this much effort. Uh,
Yes. And then like it's so like heavy that like you
yes.
have to put like a little stepper like prop thing on it to keep it nice and stabilized so it
Oh
doesn't
man.
like droop and then break and then
Right.
there goes thousands of dollars down the
Right.
drain.
Right. That's a very expensive mistake to make. It makes me very nervous. Oh man. So yeah, just I don't know. I mean, we spent like I don't know a couple of hours trying to figure out what was going on with it that other day when you were using like 100% hard drive and everything was freaking out. I have no idea what else would
It's
be.
got all new hard drives now.
Yeah.
They're both SSDs now.
Hmm.
I completely chalked out that prehistoric little brick.
Right.
Um, no more turning on the computer and it goes like, and then
You don't hear the
my,
grinding wheels inside.
yeah, my husband is very thankful for that.
Hey,
He said,
it's
I don't gotta listen to that prehistoric little pterodactyl in the corner. And I
it's all
said,
right. It's
oh,
the
my
little
bad.
steps. It's the little improvements along the way that count. But
Yeah.
I don't know if you're blue screening just trying to do dual monitor activities, you might end up having to replace your final piece. I hate to say it, but
No. I've got all new memory cards. I've got all new like hard drives. It's a whole new processor. Everything is new except for the motherboard.
well, you know, if you're still having problems and there's only one old piece in there.
No, no, I would rather build a whole new
I mean,
computer.
hey, that's always an option too, you know, just get rid of the whole
This is
thing. Just
that's essentially what I'm doing. Change out the
yeah.
motherboard. Oh, whole new computer.
Well, I mean, one of them is significantly more expensive than the other option, though. So, I mean, it's up to you. I don't know. You could.
True. I could always upgrade to a bigger frame, more fans.
It's true. It's
Not
true.
a bad idea.
Lots of fans. That way your husband can be upset at the fact that your computer now sounds like a jet turbine instead of just like a grindy wheel. Uh,
It already sounds like it's taken off sometimes.
So when your computer is actually working and not trying to blue screen to death you and keep you from watching shows, you mentioned that you played other MMOs before. What other MMOs have you tried out?
It's gonna sound childish. I went through a lot of phases.
Mm,
I first started playing like just fantasy in general, and I don't know if you consider it fantasy. I guess you would because it's wizards or whatever. But I started like my very first video game being Wizard 101. Then my
mm,
sister, like one of them, was still in the house and she had a PlayStation 4. And then it was Final Fantasy X that I played for a little bit in between.
yeah.
Never fully beat it myself because I'm a scrub and I can't get past halfway. Um, and so I did 10 for a while, and then I turned around and I came back to the computer, and I there was this game that was called Eden Eternal for a while.
Okay.
It was where you could be like a couple different races, most of them being human, just
Mm,
one you were like a little midget, the other one you were a full size human, and then the
right.
other you were I don't even remember what the third one was. Um, Not many people picked it. And so I did that for a while and I was introduced to the same concept that like Final Fantasy 14 does, where you can flip through multiple classes and level them all at the same time. So I was already familiar with that concept of picking a certain race to fit to a particular class. So
Mm,
I was always running through that to figure out what I wanted to do, how I wanted things set up. And then I took a big break from Eden, and then they actually shut down the game because they just didn't have enough players.
right.
I've spent so much money on that game.
That's
Ridiculous to a
disappointing
degree.
then that they shut it down, that all that stuff is gone.
Yeah, I was like big into like the whole PvP thing.
Mm,
I was always going into like PvP combat. I guess it's very similar to uh, what would I compare it to? Not trying to think of what you would kind of compare that to. It's almost like crystalline conflict in a sense.
okay.
And then for like the guild wars, and then the bigger
Mm,
PvP is like similar to like Frontline, where everybody's trying to take like these certain crystals down and like get the most points to be able to go into the guild war.
right.
Um, and then I'd always played support at that point. And then I took a break from Eden for a little bit and I played this game called Perfect World. They're still up and running. It was different races also had certain benefits to certain classes. And my favorite thing that I liked from that game was like they had a mating system, kind of like how in Final Fantasy you can get married. But like in
Right.
this one, you were like mated and your male mate could actually come pick you up and walk you around, like carrying you in like
They
princess style.
they could bride carry you everywhere.
Yes, it was perfect. Here I was, little 14 to 15-year-old me being princess carried everywhere, and it was amazing. Like, do you want to be my gentleman, sir? Or pretty
Right.
please? Would you like to carry me through this world?
I
And
I've seen that happen in a different MMO game, and I can't remember what it was called now. It's just because I watched Josh Drive Hayes, and he did it in one of the videos, and I was like, huh.
oh gosh, it was like, and then it was cool because in like their like beast race,
Hmm.
the women were able to transform into foxes, and
Okay.
then the men were able to transform into like this like big lion slash bear.
Uh-huh.
So then you could also be carried in that form too. You just like you sat on like their back, almost like you're riding a horse, but a
Okay.
bear. And it was pretty cool. I played that for a while, and then I think I played like a couple more. I really wanted to try and find one that I really liked,
Hmm.
and I just never like clicked into any of them. And so for the longest time, I wasn't really playing anything. I was just kind of playing once the Nintendo Switch came out, I was playing tons and tons of Animal Crossing. And then my husband was like, Final Fantasy 14. And I was like, okay, let's do it. Went through like the free trial and everything, and I finished A Realm Reborn. And I was big into the story. Like I enjoyed like reading it. Now, if you ask me any kind of story points, I probably won't remember. So
You have the same problem my wife did. I was there when she was going through the story, and there were some story moments that made her like cry and had a big impact at the time. But I ask her about them, those exact same points now. She's like, I don't remember. I'm like, okay,
yes,
well,
like you could probably jog my memory some way or
hmm,
another. I just remember I cried in Heaven's Ward,
yeah,
um, at the vault.
everybody
That
does.
was a big one. I cried like a little baby, and my husband came home during that exact moment,
Oh
and
yeah.
he was like, "Why are you crying?" And I said, "It's nothing. You wouldn't understand." And then oh my God, I did so much crying in Endwalker.
Yeah.
So much crying.
Yeah,
I
Endwalker's bad about that.
I got through like the last like couple hours of story play, and I was like, why did they fuck with my feelings this way?
It's and it's so hard to explain to people that don't play the game why you're so invested in it. But I've had the same moments. Like I don't outside of this game, I don't really cry at like hardly anything. But Heaven's Ward got me. That moment after the vault got me. The moment at the end of the Dragon Song War, at the end of the Nidhogg fight, when
Oh
they show up
yes!
again as ghosts. Yeah.
Oh,
Um,
that tore me
yeah,
apart.
that
And then like all the
was oh.
sacrificing in Heaven's Ward, I was just like, you
Uh,
can't do this to me.
no, that gut punched me. There were several moments in Shadowbringers. One was just a dialogue choice when you're talking to Reen, and then you get to quote Haurchefant to her. That got me.
Oh no.
Um, the end when you're talking to after you've beaten Emmett Selk and all that stuff that happens there. That got me when it pans to. I don't know if you remember this from the credits for Shadowbringers, but when it pans to Ardbert walking along back to the Crystarium, and then it pans around and it shows his dead friends waiting for him on the other end of the bridge as he's
That
walking towards them.
broke
That
me.
was bad. Yeah, that was.
I think the only expansion I never cried for
Hmm.
would probably be like Stormblood. I I think that's like my least favorite expansion. I just
Hmm.
never got with it. It was a little too slow for my liking.
Yeah.
Not a lot of like, it just felt like we were more, we're in World War II, honey. What are we
Yeah.
going to do? Kind of vibe. Whereas like
Stormblood.
everything.
Stormblood was more of an expansion for sort of I don't know people that like solo duties and stuff like that. It had a lot better ones for that, but I didn't care so much about Lise, and they focused a lot on Lise. And
Yes.
there were still a couple of moments that kind of got me, but there were definitely not as many. There was the one because I got really attached to Gosetsu, the big samurai man,
Yes.
and his whole journey through the Asm Step, learning about what those people think about like life after death and stuff like that, and then how he like basically at the time it seemed like he was sacrificing himself in Doma Castle and was going to die, and that
Yes.
part got me. And
I was
then
so mad when he was sacrificing himself for that witch of a woman, and I
right.
was like, she cannot be redeemed. Let her burn.
But then like they turned me around on her too afterwards in her redemption arc. Kind of, I felt kind of bad for her at the end when you kind of learned that she was basically abused and sold off and all this stuff. That one kind of got me, but honestly, it was mostly just Gosetsu. That one scene there got me, and other than that, Stormblood is probably the least sad of the expansions. Uh,
Yeah, not a lot like too much happens as far as like death wise
no, no,
that like really gets me. It's
no.
like it starts off in that way and then nobody truly like dies and I
Right,
wanted to cry about. And then I'm like, well, you
right.
fucking mess with my emotions this way. What are we gonna do next?
Well, then to go back to the other scenes that kind of got me in like Shadowbringers. There's one other one. It was in the patch content. It's after you fight the Warrior of Light, Elidibus, and then at the end he has his scene where he's just like this child basically, and he starts talking about his friends and stuff like that. That one gets me. Um,
Mine was like, I think the biggest point that I cried is like, and I can't remember if it was fully like Shadowbringers, if it was like officially Endwalker. I think it was probably Endwalker. It's where you're like just now learning about like Emmett Sulk and like all of the Asians and like their whole past, and
mhm.
you journey towards like this rendition of like his old like home that he makes, and then you
Right, Amarok.
meet all of them, and then like you get to see little snippets of like their
Yeah,
memories, and then they're like, you remind me of this person, old friend, and I'm like,
right.
stop it,
my
you're gonna
new
make me cry.
my new old friend. Yeah, yeah. That
Yes, and then like when Emmett's like, remember us, and it's like,
right.
fucking shit, man, stop.
You go through this whole expansion thinking he's just kind of this sarcastic shitbag, and then you find out that like he's actually incredibly sentimental, and he remade his entire like home city, but not just that, all of his friends the way that he remembers them. And he just is wandering
Yes.
around this town of ghosts of his friends, constant reminders of the people that are no longer around.
It made
And
me so sad
it's
because
yeah,
if I was in his position, I would probably be doing the same thing. Like, I would damn the world just to like get my friends back. Because if
it's
I was the lone person to
mm.
survive through that, I would be broken.
No, and he definitely was broken, and that's the that's the saddest part of all. And then actually bringing it back to the stuff that happens after that. So for Endwalker, for me, like the two big points that really hit me the hardest. The first one was the scene with Urianger in the little underground place when he's got all the Loporrits with him, and then Monbrita's parents show up. Do you remember that one?
Oh, shoot. I'm trying to remember that one.
It's the one where he thinks that they're going to be mad at him because he has never really talked to them about Moonbreeda's death. And then
Oh,
the mom comes up
yeah.
and looks like she's pissed, and then she just gives him a hug, and he starts like
And then
trembling.
she's like, we never blamed you.
Right.
Oh my
And that they
God, I
cried for
remember
him as
that.
much as they cried for her.
I remember
That
that.
was a
Oh
rough one
my
for me.
There was just so many moments that made
Yeah.
me cry all too much in these games, just
Yeah.
all of them. And it's just, my memory is just so terrible because when I was going through the story, I was working like one full-time job
Yeah,
and
you
going to
had
school
to, right?
full-time. And then, well, at that point, when I was doing Endwalker, or I was just getting through like Shadowbringers,
Mm.
and I was right on the cusp of finishing school, and I was working full time at the car dealership, and then doing full time hours at the school. So I was popping around like probably 50, if not 60 hours a week.
Yeah.
So I would come home at like 10 o'clock and play until like 1 a.m. and then go back to work at like 7 a.m. and repeat.
Oof.
Like it was brutal. And then right after I had left school and finished, I took a huge break.
Hmm.
Just did just straight like the car dealership thing. And then was playing Final Fantasy full time. I got into like raid content with my previous FC. And then I gotten into like a lot of like in-game content with them, like hardcore raiding.
Yeah.
I was doing, I'm trying to remember what raid was big around the time we were trying to do all that. It was Asphodelos,
Oh.
like the very first, like first through fourth circle was
Hmm.
really big. And then we were doing 5 through 8. And then by the time 9 through 12 came out, the FC was almost like pretty much dead.
Right.
So I had like worked so much in like just helping build up an FC, like decorating, kind of like how like Seren likes to go around and like decorate like all the
Yes.
houses and stuff. I used to do that all the time. I would decorate for different holidays. I would completely like deck up the entire like FC house for like special occasions
Hmm.
and like arrange like treasure map farms and all these cool little events. And then it just kind of like died.
Yeah.
So then I was like, well, now I have nothing to do because I had like two people that would come to like the treasure map parties, and
Right.
it's like at that point it takes too long to get through one map, and
Right.
I'm like, well, we're gonna take a break from this. So and then it just so happened that Bunny, who is now Memphis,
Hmm.
um, they had invited me, um, or I think I was talking to like all three of them. I was talking to Percy, Memphis, and Icy
Yeah.
about what kind of FC you guys were before I fully made like the decision to come out.
I mean, that's smart.
And I was like asking lots of questions about like events and all that because I
Hmm.
was still really big into like the treasure maps.
Right.
And then why you guys scare me like that, honey?
Husband jump
like
scared
a
behind
deer
you.
in the like a deer in the headlights. He like opens the door and I instantly stop moving. Um, and we were doing that, and then we finally had. I'm not scratching your back. Go. Fine, come here. No, come here. Okay, fine. Um, sorry, sidetracked me.
No, you're good.
And I was just asking like tons of questions about
Yeah.
just how the environment was, if it was super chill, laid back, all kinds of things. And
Mm.
then I like fully decided to come in. And then the whole house thing happened, and I was
Right.
working two full-time jobs, popping about 35 hours at one job, 32 at the other one. And it was brutal. It was the most, probably the most horrible time I've had because I've always worked multiple jobs.
Oof.
And just the fact that like I was I wasn't forced into it per se, but I felt like I had
Right.
to get the house. So then that's when I like did the whole thing where like, hey, I don't want to be here and then like just be completely MIA from y'all.
Mm.
And so that's when I had left. And then I had came back for like a couple of days and I was just chilling in the FC, just like stalking y'all like a weirdo. And Seren had just came up to me and sent me like an FC invite, and I was like, fuck it. And so I came back, and it was just like from there. And
Hmm.
so I did that, and then now I'm kind of like hit or miss. IC's got me back on Wizard, so I've
Right.
been playing my little kid game for the past couple weeks till the new expansion comes.
Right.
And then I'll have tons more time to cry my eyes out in the all new expansions. I did, however, get a nice little glimpse of the new race. I was
Hmm.
wondering when they were going to bring out another Dami Mommy, and I was so happy that it's a furry Dami Mommy.
You and
So,
probably half of Balmung's population, to be honest. So,
yes, I'm ready to see what hits the internet
oh, there's going
once
to be a
it
lot of
drops.
things. Yes, there's going to be a lot of
So,
things.
oh, and the cool thing that not a lot of people know, because you guys met me when I was already all raw.
Yeah.
Um, I I had came up with Nixame by first being Mikote,
Oh.
and I wanted a whole like woodland vibe,
Hmm.
and then I I first of all wanted to be Vieira. It was like the biggest thing that I wanted. But since I had started the free trial, I
You could
couldn't
not.
play
Yeah.
Vieira because I had to at least like purchase the full version and
Right.
I think get to like Stormblood or something before then. And so as soon as like I hit Stormblood, I race changed to Vieira because I was first introduced into Vieiras in um and you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's Final Fantasy 12,
You are correct. Yes.
which is Zodiac Age.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
that the correct one?
That's one of the
Okay.
versions of Final Fantasy 12. Yeah, and that is the first game where they popped up.
Okay. Because I had saw her and I was like, I want to be
You want to
a
be
big bunny
Fran?
mommy.
Yeah.
Yes, I still have her minion like running
Right.
around. It was
It's
one
a
of
good choice.
the first minions that I wanted, and I was like, I need to have this one. I had even modeled my entire Vieira after her with
Right.
a little bit of adjustments
Hmm.
here and there. And so I did that for a while, and then I my previous in-game wife did a lot of race changing,
Hmm.
and that kind of opened up the loophole for the realm I'm in now
Right.
of
Right.
constantly changing my outfits, constantly changing my appearance. And so I constantly flip between my Vieira and my Aura. And sometimes my Mikote, but I don't have enough pretty glams on her
Hmm.
for it to really matter. And I then instantly fell in love with the whole like dragon vibe of the aura. I still wish that the female aura would have the male freaking like head horns. Like I want those, like the real sharp, spiky
Yeah.
looking ones. I want those. I want to look like I'll fuck your shit up when I come around the corner.
You want to be
Like
mean. Yeah. I get you.
yeah, I want to like come off and have like that mean appearance, but be
Right.
like the sweetest little like docile thing when you come up to
Mm.
me. Because I have a, it was between like this, like being in my house
Mm.
and like the whole Lakeland thing. Because for the longest time, I have been like a tomboy. It was always like the tomboy vibes. That's why like my Gunbreaker outfit has like a more like tomboy look to it.
Mm.
And then as I aged, I got more girly and I was like, okay, I can appreciate a decent dress. So that then brought about like my love for like plants.
Yeah.
I do not have a green thumb though. If you were to give me a plant in real life, I assure you it would probably be dead within the month. So
You're very much like my wife then. She has tried. We have like, I don't know how many potted plants inside the house at this point. Every single one that's made it inside the house has died. Uh, at some point.
I've been so terrible at it. They're
Yeah.
very beautiful to look at,
Yes.
and I love them so much. If I'm still trying to convince my husband to
Mm.
let me put wisteria all along the fence,
Yeah.
but the second I told him that wisteria was super invasive, he told me no, and
Yeah,
that
it
was my
is.
mistake.
It is very invasive. I know that. Mine is trying to convince me to get a greenhouse outside. So
Do it.
she's already drawn up floor plans and stuff for it. Um,
Gosh, my
it's
old
not cheap.
boss's neighbor has like a whole, like their whole backyard is
Mm.
filled with plants.
Oh, they're
And
beautiful when you can keep them alive and when you can keep them maintained and stuff, but they're a lot of work.
yes, I would just turn around and they would be dead the next second. That's
Right.
why I plant perennials. They only last so long, and then they're gonna die in the season anyway.
Right.
So I don't really need to upkeep them too long.
So, some of the stuff that you mentioned just in this last conversation here, just bringing it up real fast because you mentioned that you love to decorate and you would do the seasonal decorations for your old FC. We're currently sitting inside your personal house, and you chose this as your favorite spot to hang out in. Why is that?
It gives me a very homey vibe, and I understand, like, it's kind of funny because it's my home. Of course, it's gonna be homey, but like
Right.
my mind instantly went to like Simpsons in that moment where she's like, "Homie," I'm sorry. I my ADD kicks all the time, and I
That's
get
okay.
distracted. Um, Terrible to have conversations with me because it goes in one tangent, then the next one, then the next one. It's like, where were we? Oh yeah, we are here. So I picked this spot because I like a lot of like the vibrant plant colors. So it just gives me more of like it gives me like a vibe of like I can sit in front of like the fireplace with my husband and my dog on like a nice beautiful Christmas morning and just
Right.
enjoy like family.
Hmm.
It kind of gives me like that whole vibe with the whole mood lighting because I've always been the biggest introvert, so kind of doing this is a little weird. And my whole job is slowly making me more extroverted. So I don't know what kind
Right.
of changed in me, but maybe it's the caffeine. Maybe I'm just secretly a crackhead. I don't
It
know.
well, it
Um,
happens sometimes. Not the crackhead part, but the the other part about your job sort of changing you a bit. I am normally very introverted as well. I don't usually do a lot of talking unless someone approaches me first. Over the years of being in charge of the FC, that kind of changed, and then my most recent job being in sales kind of had to change. So,
oh, I do
so
not miss sales.
no, sales is not my preferred job path. I would trade it in a heartbeat for some sort of tech support job or something where I'm just like opening tickets, fixing problems, closing tickets, no interaction at all. Like that would be great.
Yeah.
Um,
Like, I normally don't engage in conversation
right.
until someone approaches me first. And
Yep.
then once you get me talking, good luck getting rid of me. I'm like that stray cat that like you pick up on the side of the road and you give it food like one
Mm,
time. It's coming back at your front door like, meow, meow. Hello? Let me in? Can
right.
I talk? Free real estate?
Right. The other thing that you kind of mentioned, this was a while back in the conversation now, but you talked about how like you took your break, you kind of came back, your old FC was pretty much abandoned at that point.
Mhm.
And how like there was a lack of activity. Honestly, this is a rough period for activity for I think everybody to try to get like groups together for things. It's just how it
Yeah.
went this time because for some reason Endwalker feels like it's been a lot longer between patch content, and what's come hasn't been as long lasting as what happened in Shadowbringers. So
Yeah.
it's been really rough. Not gonna lie, it's been really rough. Um,
Yeah, unfortunately, it's just a lot of the people that I played with,
hmm,
they just kind of dropped. And
yeah,
even though it's in like a kind of like a pause or like a slow season right
yeah,
now, you guys are still fairly active. You still have like quite a bit of people online that I can just
mm,
chat with. Either they're like cheat posing in the corner and I just might snag their attention, or they're like actively doing something.
right,
Now I've been, whenever I'm actually on, I've been distracting my time with Boja and Xandor
yes, yes.
and just kind of leveling up my classes that way because I am still very insistent. You will never see me to this day play Black Mage. If you do, I'm probably leveling it and then never going to touch it again. So
I mean,
I
that's what I did.
yes, like if I had my pick, I would only play my Scholar, my Warrior, my Gunbreaker, my Dancer, and then maybe my Summoner. And
Yeah.
that's about it. Good luck getting me to play anything else. I did Samurai for the longest time
Hmm.
because I did Samurai in like my Eden Eternal game.
Right.
And then I just fell out of love with it for some reason.
Uh,
I was more like, let me be in the back. Let me slap some things from afar.
I'm still holding on to my samurai love. That's still my like preferred class. But I will say that when they took Chitin away from me, they took out a lot of the feeling of fun with the class. Even though technically, I still probably do the same amount of damage or close to it, but it just felt better. It felt like I was doing more. It looked more interesting. Samurai looks and feels a little slow now, and I would love them to bring Chitin back or do something to fix that. Other than that, I think I would be sticking with, if it wasn't Samurai, Summoner is a good choice because it's just brain dead. I don't have to think about it. Um,
Oh gosh. I heard of like I was never here when it happened,
yeah.
but I would really love for them to bring um and I've almost got to like stand up for it that way you can like see her. Um I for the longest time really loved having the two different fairies.
Right.
And I heard that when they first had came out with Summoner, I mean not Summoner, Scholar,
Hmm.
same thing, just different job stones. Anyway,
Yeah.
and they had Celine be, I think, more of like the damage, and Eos was more of like healing.
They did
If
have different purposes, yeah. I don't know which one was which because Scholar is still a class that even though I've leveled it to max, I have no idea how it works. So I didn't play it then. But I know they had different purposes.
I feel like I would be happy if they brought that back. They just recently, like I think it's been a couple months now, they got rid of Celine entirely, and now she's just a glamour.
Yeah.
And it honestly broke my heart because I was like, now if I want to see a nice, beautiful Celine, I have to glamour Eos into her. And I can't just like flip flop them between
Right.
like whenever I want, summon Celine one day, summon Eos the next day. But I thought it was pretty cool with like the concept of like you could be a more like damage based scholar where like if I wanted to deal more damage on like the side, I could, and then if I
Mm.
wanted to be more healer based, I most definitely could as well because I was already used to like a concept with certain games of having different gear sets for different builds.
Yeah.
Like I was already accustomed to having like a healer build where like you had to pay attention to your output, your input,
Hmm.
your mana. You had to like pay attention to everything. You had to have certain amount of wisdom, certain amount
Right.
in intellect, and I was like big into it. And then I came in, and it was just like they were the same thing, and I was like,
Yeah.
well,
It's one
what's
of those
the
things that
point?
this game kind of lost as far as like it lost it in favor of simplification and trying to do their current thing is like 2 minute burst windows for most classes, and that's one of the things that went away a long time ago for a lot of these classes. Like the one that I can think of that I was familiar with back in the day was White Mage and having Cleric stance that you toggled on and off. And if I remember correctly, Cleric Stance just made your heals more effective, but made your damage less. And so when you wanted to damage things, you had to toggle it off, and then you had to use your damage spells. And then when you wanted to heal things, you had to toggle it back on, and then do your healing. Basically, stuff like that. Um,
I
they've
feel like that would make more in-game content
mm,
more
engaging.
like difficult, but I would enjoy the level of attention that goes with it.
I miss a little bit of the more complicated things like that, and I get the idea of like it being a barrier to entry for people that are just getting started, but for the people that have played for a long time, like honestly, my class is boring now. Uh, just it's to the point now that I can do my rotation without thinking about it, and it's not really that difficult, and I can do that with most of the classes now. I can't do it with Black Mage just because Black Mage rotation never made any sense to me at all. But
It still doesn't, at least not to me. I think I
right.
just like I hit thunder one time to get a dot on there. Then I do lots of fire, fireball, fireball,
Well, it's
fireball,
it's
and
also
then
weird because Black Mage has all these triggers that happen, like, oh, if the right tick hits on Thunder, you get an instant free Thunder cast that happens instantaneously. And then you have to figure
yeah.
out if you need to use that right away, which I assume that you do, or like then you cast fire, and then sometimes fire starter takes effect, and that means you can cast like fire 3 or whatever instantly for free. And I'm like, how does that fit into the rotation? Because you can't rely on it. Like Samurai's rotation is always the same because I don't have random things like procking. It's just me doing a rotation. And then Black Mage is like, hey, here's a rotation. Also, this stuff just sort of randomly activates, so good luck. Throw that in there somewhere.
I think that's why I enjoy Dancer.
Yeah.
Dancer is so like sporadic and crazy that
Mm,
I kind of dig it. It's not like a set like damage.
right. You
Like
you have the skills to randomly proc the fan dances and stuff like that, and then Bard has kind of the same thing. And they're two jobs that I can't play that well either because I catch myself staring at my hotbar too much to see if the skill has procced. So I stare at the hotbar and then I forget to stare at the enemy and then they hit me. So
oh gosh, I'm just glad that like we don't l legally have damage detectors like World of Warcraft did.
yes,
I played World of Warcraft for only just a little bit and then I immediately quit
it's
because
yeah,
they are just very big on damage
yeah,
and
to the point
they're
they'd kick
not
you out if you weren't
very
doing enough. Yeah,
yeah, and they're not very new player friendly,
no,
whereas Final Fantasy was very welcoming and I
right.
was immensely surprised to find so many people willing to help
Mm,
me level along the way. So I think that's what kind of made me stick to the game.
right.
I know I went through a big break to play Baldur's Gate because I've also been into like the whole D&D thing. I just
Mm,
don't have actual in real life friends to play D&D with, and it was always more of like an in-person thing before I found out that you can actually do it online now, and I was
yes.
like, "Oh, okay. I can actually go out and make friends.
Yeah.
Good to know."
Yeah, roll 20 and D&D Beyond have like plugins that integrate into each other and you can do it that way. That's how our group actually plays D&D. Um
Oh, damn.
yeah, so there's also even like some Discord plugins that you can do too. There's like Avray, I think it's called, that can do that.
Hmm.
But yeah, there's definitely options out there.
I
Um
just want to be that one chaotic, like, rogue that pops in and then just like completely messes with the entire run because I try and pickpocket somebody or I try and romance someone that I'm not supposed to and it
Yes.
doesn't go my way. Because
Yes.
I do not roll nat 20s very often. Most of them are below five.
Yeah, we had a rogue in our party that did that for a while. He stole something from a church and then he got cursed. Until he put it back. Uh,
See, I would be that type of person to then sleep with the nun to then get the item and then run away with
it
it.
sounds like you're perfectly suited to play D&D. So
I keep seeing all those like little memes where it's like romance the
I
dragon
seduced the
and then
dragon. Yeah, yeah.
yes, and then the dragon's like rolling to see who's on top. And I'm like, oh no.
Honestly, that's the perfect energy for a D&D campaign. So I think when you find the group, you'll be set. So um,
Yes, I would so enjoy it just to like have some time to let my little crazy energy out.
it's a lot of fun. It takes a little bit of getting used to, but it is a lot of fun. And there's even other more in-depth things you can find, like on Steam. And I haven't used this myself, but on Steam there is a program called Tailspire that basically everybody would have to buy a copy. I think it's like $20 or 25 or something like that. But it's basically like 3D D&D maps that you can make yourself with like miniatures and
Oh,
stuff like that you can just all join the game and like move around in, complete with like fog of war settings and stuff like that. So I don't know how
I
easy
feel
it is
like
to
I'd be
use,
that
but
one member to just like draw you guys as
hmm,
characters, just to like give you like little headshots of them.
there's a lot of resources for that too. They've got like I've went through on Hero Forge before and made like a miniature of my own character. I haven't ever printed off, but it's just fun to mess with. Um, there's a lot of options out there. Trust me, there's a whole world that you can that you can mess with. Um, but yeah, I guess because we're almost at an hour now, and I'm about to have food
Oh,
ready.
geez.
So um, I guess to
See,
sort of
I
wrap
told
things
you I
up.
could talk your head off.
That's
Get you
okay.
talking.
That's okay. But yeah, I guess to wrap things up, any final thoughts or words for anybody watching out there?
I would just say if you randomly just see me
Hmm.
sitting in Linza, mind your business. I'm kidding.
I
If
mean, hey,
if
for
you
some of
come
these
up just
people,
randomly, it's okay. As long as we're not in Belmont, and then
yes,
that is a steer away clear
yeah. Being
territory.
in Balmung is basically like hanging the handkerchief on your door, like that's or the sock on the doorknob. So
Yes.
nobody talks about that.
We don't talk about Belmont.
Right, right. Unless we're making jokes about it, that's okay. Because I've made a lot of those to a lot of the FC members. uh, all right. So if they see you in Limsa, it's okay to approach you.
Yeah, it's okay. I
Okay.
won't bite too
Yeah.
bad.
Okay. Uh, yeah. So I guess we'll wrap that up. Then I thank you for doing the interview. I'll ping you when this gets uploaded. I don't know what my schedule is going to look like because I'm about to start my work week again. But if I had to guess, with the amount of interviews between this one and before, probably be about a week from now.